So, Michael, in your uh, experience of, I guess, life, what makes you think 2020 is different compared to 2016 as far as election?
In terms of how the election's playing out, it's actually a lot more stable election this year than it was in 2016. The polls have been a lot more stable, not so much up and down like they were to an extent in 2016. And there's a lot fewer undecided voters when you look at the polls. In 2016, Hillary had a lead, but it was her she was polling it in the low to mid 40s. Um, while Trump was polling in the low 40s or high 30s. While this year, Biden's polling in the high 40s, low 50s, while Trump is in the mid 40s. So there's a lot fewer undecided voters this time around. And what happened in 2016 at the end is pretty much all the undecided voters broke uniformly for Trump. But this time, there's not as many undecided voters out there at this point, it seems like.
And
That's
do
why I
you,
see it as different.
and do you see a higher turnout of young voters according to some articles out there for younger voters for this year's?
I haven't really looked, I haven't really looked in depth at the numbers, but it seems like people who do report on that kind of thing seem like there is a lot higher turnout so far. I think that's a lot due to the increased use of vote by mail this time around. So the people have already turned in their ballots, and people are already utilizing early voting. So it seems like a lot higher percentage of people who are going to vote have already voted at this point than would usually vote to wait for election day.
And do you think voting by mail could be in danger because of all the things that the president has said?
I think actually it's going to have the opposite effects because it's going to make his supporters less likely to vote by mail, which is not good for him. So it's an avenue that his voters could use that he's telling them not to use. Especially in a state like Florida, where the Republican Party of Florida has used vote by mail to great effect since Florida implemented vote by mail in a large way back after the 2000 election. It's always been an advantage that the Florida Republicans have had. And Democrats kind of had to catch up through early voting for election day itself. While this year it seems like, in Florida at least, Democrats are utilizing vote by mail a lot more and have a lead so far in vote by mail. Our Republicans seem to have an advantage in early voting, which is the opposite of how it usually goes. And it seems like because of how much attention is on it, and how much there's controversy and people worried about their vote not counting, it seems like people are paying attention a lot more and doing everything they can to make sure that vote actually will count. So it seems like it's having the opposite effect and actually driving turnout up.
And what's the difference between, let's say, the Trump's controversies of 2016 over controversies that he has to now?
In what sense? What kind of controversies?
For example, the whole like grab you by the private parts and all the other things like Mexican people are bad compared to what he's done up to this point as far as controversies.
Well, just off the bat, I think the big difference is he's actually president now, and he's been president for 4 years, and we've seen how bad he is at it. To be frank, being president, whereas it was only in theory that he was going to be really bad at it in 2016. So a lot of people would be like, "Oh, there's no way he says crazy stuff, but there's no way when he becomes president, he'll take it seriously and actually be like any other president who actually respects the office." But now we've seen for 4 years how he doesn't respect the office. Doesn't I think this right there the main difference.
And do you think minority voting will have also a huge turnout to turn this election one way or another?
Um, it depends on the state by state things, depending. Um, Obviously, the coalition that President Obama was able to build when he was first elected in 28 and again in 2012 relied on a high turnout of minority voters, not just African Americans, but Hispanic as well. And that certainly is a key voting group that Democrats rely on to win elections. But it seems like this year that there's a lot of even more older white voters that seem to be moving from perhaps supporting Trump in 2016 and moving towards Biden this year. Maybe a lot due to how he handled the coronavirus and how it disproportionately affects older people who catch it. It's a lot more dangerous for them, and so they they're not happy with the way he's handled it, and so are maybe moving to towards Biden. But yeah, obviously minority voters are the key coalition that Democrats always need to and do focus on turning out. And hopefully they will turn out to support.
All right. Well, just to kind of close off the interview part, do you think the blue wave is coming in strong?
Certainly hope so. Definitely need to try to get things back on the a good track and moving in a progressive direction. And I think like the presidential race, it trickles down to all the statewide races, from Senate down to House. Less so as you get further down the ballot. But I think how the presidential race goes in states is how the Senate races and competitive House races in the states will go as well. You have a competitive Senate race in Iowa. Biden does well in Iowa, and he'll carry the Senate candidate over the finish line, for example. So it's all correlated.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna pause here.